Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. We're getting so close to being finished, and I'm nearly at the end of my holidays, so I've got to get stuck in and get some work done. I've laid all this out just to have a look at how it looks, and it looks quite dramatic, doesn't it? I'm hoping that by the time I finish this body, that's going to darken the tone of this, so that the pickup won't look quite so dramatic. It really pops out at the moment, and it almost makes me want to make whatever bridge and make that black, and also have black controls and black areas to do black hardware on it, because I think that would look kind of neat. I don't have any black hardware. I was sort of banking on everything being chrome. Gonna look a little bit weird, but it's easy enough to change these out later. So as far as the bridge goes, I'm going to make a design for a bridge after I've actually set all of this into the body, so that I know exactly where it's going to line up and exactly how much space I have to play with back here, because there's not a lot. It's going to be tight. I've drawn two lines on the body here. They are based on different neck placement positions. There's two lines up here as well. Obviously for the bridge I want to run with that line, and for the neck pocket I want to run with that line. So basically, I'm considering just splitting the difference and going in between them. If the neck pocket is properly cut and it's a nice tight fit, then losing 6mm isn't really going to be the end of the world. And actually what that does is that allows this last fret here to line up perfectly with that cutaway. Just for design purposes, I kind of like that. It also gives me an extra 6mm at the bridge to play with. This is smaller than is ideal, but I don't think it's going to be a problem if I construct the pocket and make it a nice tight fit. It's going to be fine. Once the pocket's been cut and the actual placement of the neck has been set, then I can take a couple of lengths of string and just run them down to find out exactly where they're going to sit on the body, so that I can find out the exact placement of the pickup, so that I can line the pole pieces up. Can't see the pole pieces, but my trick for that is you just take a small metal thing and it will magnetically jump to wherever the pole pieces are, and then you just mark that with a little bit of tape and get everything lined up properly. Then I can cut a cavity for the pickup, and then I can cut a control cavity. I'm going real simple on the controls on this. Volume knob. That's it. I don't even really want that there. I only want a switch to turn the bass off when I'm not playing it. But sometimes a volume knob can be handy as well. Okay, the neck is on, and you will note that the pocket is tight enough that it will grip the body nice and securely. It's not the size that matters, it's how it's constructed, and this one's tight enough that it's going to be a nice secure neck pocket. If it was a little bit larger, it still wouldn't hold onto the neck pocket any more than it already does. So we've passed the point. We have a successful thing. Although there is something weird if I flip it over, because the top is so thick and the neck blank isn't. we've got binding back there, and there's a little gap where the two ends of the binding meet up. Normally that just gets cut away, but I'm going to have to probably just get a little bit of acetone and just glue a little block in to cover that gap. That's a minor cosmetic detail. The point is, the neck pocket is great. Plus, I need to clean up a lot of the binding in this area anyway. I've sort of done the back half of the body, but not the front half, so there's a little bit of cosmetic work to do there. Before I get to that though, I want to put the pickup on, and that's just a matter of running a couple of strings down, finding the placement, cutting another hole. Pickup is in, minimalist control cavity cut for minimalist controls. Basically, pickup comes in, volume pot sits at the bottom of there, and of course output jack. Now these barrel jacks, most of the time, in fact 100% of the barrel jacks that I've ever seen before this one were stereo. This one's only mono. I'm not sure why that is. I guess it's a thing you can buy. So I bought some. I don't need any of this stuff here. This is, I think, meant to go inside an acoustic guitar and have a cable go to it. I can chop that off, which gives me plenty of room in there for things like a volume pot and whatever extra wires and stuff. Then I'll make a tiny little circular plate to go over the top of that, and that's done. So, things still left to do. Well, obviously attach the pickup. Purely by accident, certainly not by design, I have set the neck back on quite a back angle because I didn't have a bridge to try and line it up with, and so I've gone with my instincts, and my instincts are currently set to upright bass. So there's quite a lot of angle there, probably too much for an electric bass. I sort of need to sand the pocket out a little bit just to reduce that, because that's quite high. However, that did put me in mind of what sort of bridge that I'm going to use. It did occur to me that I could just put on a bridge in a similar style to the electric upright, and this was the prototype bridge. I could simply whack one of them on there, However, there's a couple of problems. We want individual string adjustment. So, cut this into 5 sections. Then that would give me basically 5 floating bridges. But there's another problem. We want individual height adjustment. So, what I propose is 5 blocks of Quilla with a groove cut in the top, a small piece of brass with some set screws to raise it up and down. They'll be movable in terms of, string spacing and intonation. The strings will be through body. The whole thing should work. It's the easiest thing to make, and therefore that's what I'm going to try first. And if that doesn't work for some reason, then I will try the next hardest thing. But for now, that's where my mind's going in terms of bridge design. Before I start making the bridge, though, I need to do a little bit of cleanup. There's a few little bits on the headstock, and the binding needs a lot of work, but we're just clean up the final details, and then I can actually begin finishing the entire thing. And I'm going to fold the making of the bridge into the finishing process, so that I can do a little bit on some of these, and then I'll add another coat, and then I'll do a little bit on something else, and then I'll add another coat, and then I'll drill some holes in a piece of brass, and then I'll add another coat. It is the next day. I've got about 7 or 8 coats on here, and this wood is just incredible. I've been on the wood database to try and identify it. No clues. If anybody's got any idea what this wood is, let me know. Just the way it catches the light and changes colour. It's astonishing. It just shimmers. I think they call it chatoyance. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So now I need to have a look at the bridge. I think I've got my ideas sorted in my head, at least. So now I need to get them down on paper and work out the finer points. I have taken a little bit more out of the neck pocket, just to bring the angle back to something that's more in keeping with normality. And now that I've done that, I can properly jam the neck on, run a straight edge up it, and get some actual measurements for how high the bridge needs to be, and figure out exactly what I'm doing here, because I've been putting this off all week. It's happening now. Okay, really quickly, essentially what we've got is a block of oak, a brass saddle resting on a small steel retaining plate so that the adjustment screws don't just sink into the wood. All of the measurements I think are right, and we'll find out really soon if they're not. But I think I can make this pretty quickly. If it doesn't work, I can still reuse the saddles because they're not glued in at all, and make something better to put them on. But I think for now, some floating individual bridge pieces with brass and steel and oak should be a pretty solid bridge. Let's find out if I'm right about that, because I don't actually know. So there is a completed bridge saddle. Well, nearly complete. I still need to put a groove in the top. Yeah, I'll probably do that when I'm actually assembling the base, just so I can make sure that I get the string spacing just exactly right. I was hoping that these height adjustment screws might not sit that high. That's why I sort of drilled them into the base a little bit. But what I'm thinking is actually sand a little bit off the bottom. Then I can raise the saddle up and that'll just sort of take care of that height, just so they're not sticking out quite so far. The only other thing is that as the string comes back over the saddle and goes to go through the body, I may need to cut a little bit out of this area, but apart from that, yeah, it's a good little unit. Should be solid as. All I need now is 4 more of them. And here they are. While I was making all of those, I was doing things to the body as well. I've had a very back and forward day, but here's a montage. So, in between cutting all of those holes, making the bridge pieces, and applying endless coats of superglue, I've had a pretty incoherent day. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to edit that into some sort of video that makes some sort of sense. You guys can be the judge. But everything is made. I have everything I need. Tomorrow, I'm going to put this base together. And then tomorrow night, I've got a gig. I'm going to actually play it on stage. I just hope I can get it properly sanded out and polished before then. It's still a little bit rough in this area, but a few more coats, and then a blimmin' good sand and polish, and then I can put it all together. As I said, I'm going to treat the final finessing of these bridge saddles as part of the setup, so get them in the right place, get them at the right height, do whatever I have to make them work, and it should work. It should work. Well, I'll find out tomorrow, but you'll find out in a couple of days, because this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I will see you as soon as I can.